Hello, welcome to Quest 3, Module 2, Analysis of Informational Text with Relevancy as it relates to culture, history, and contemporary context. Let's look at the directions for the 4-column chart. Preview the chart before reading the article. Use the excerpts in the column on the left to analyze significance, style, purpose, and how tone/diction advance the author's stance. Use textual evidence and respond with depth of thought. We're going to begin by reading the information in the chart so that you know what you're going to be expected to do. You'll follow along with me in the video before moving to a chart on your own. First, in the section on the left, you're going to pull information from your actual article by copying and pasting, and you're going to add it to this section here. Once you've added the information, you'll respond by analyzing or explaining why that information is significant in its context. You're going to do the same thing 3 times, so you'll have 3 excerpts from the article. Next, you're going to look at the author's style. What is the author's style that's being used in the excerpt, and what message does it convey to the audience? You're going to do that for each of the sections here. In the 3rd column, you're going to explore the author's purpose for including the excerpted information that you've chosen. Finally, in the 4th column, you're going to identify the author's tone and discuss how it advances the author's stance. How does it better convey his idea or viewpoint? Let's read the article. Upper East Side aunt sues 12-year-old nephew for $127,000 after breaking her wrist while leaping to greet her at a birthday party. By Dennis Slattery. If only they could just hug it out. A human resources manager from Manhattan is suing her nephew over a leaping greeting from the then 8-year-old that left her with a broken wrist, according to reports. Jennifer Connell, 54, believes little Sean Terrella, now 12, should have known better than to jump into her arms as a means of welcoming her to his birthday party in 2011. Connell, of East 73rd Street on the Upper East Side, is seeking $127,000 in damages for suffering a broken wrist when the two fell to the ground in the rough reception, according to the site. The aunt, who has no children of her own, said her life has not been the same since the 50-pound bundle of boyish energy bounded into her open arms. I live in Manhattan in a 3rd-floor walk-up, so it has been very difficult, Connell testified Friday at Connecticut Superior Court in Bridgeport, and we all know how crowded it is in Manhattan. And if walking upstairs with an injured wrist wasn't difficult enough, the after-effects on Connell's social life have been disastrous. I was at a party recently, and it was difficult to hold my hors d'oeuvres plate, she added. The minor child is the only defendant in the case. Connell's troubles started on March 18, 2011, when she arrived at her nephew's Westport, Connecticut home. Sean was outside playing with the brand new bike he had received for his birthday. The excited boy dropped his new set of wheels and ran toward his aunt to greet her, shouting, "Auntie Jen! Auntie Jen!" All of a sudden he was there in the air. I had to catch him, and we tumbled into the ground, Connell testified, according to ctpost.com. I remember him shouting, "Auntie Jen, I love you," and there he was flying at me. Although hurt, Connell said, she didn't tell her nephew the extent of her injuries. It was his birthday party, and I didn't want to upset him, she told the jury. Sean, whose mother died last year, appeared confused as he sat with his father, Michael Terrella, in court Friday. A family member at the boy's home declined to comment on the lawsuit. Connell, during her testimony, said Sean had always been very loving, sensitive toward her, but she still feels the preteen is responsible for her injury. The injuries, losses, and harms to the plaintiff were caused by the negligence and carelessness of the minor defendant, in that a reasonable 8-year-old under those circumstances would know or should have known that a forceful greeting such as the one delivered by the defendant to the plaintiff could cause the harms and losses suffered by the plaintiff, the lawsuit claims. Now, let's go back to our chart. We're looking at the significance of text that the author included in the articles. I've pulled 3 excerpts. Let's begin with the first. If only they could just hug it out. A human resources manager from Manhattan is suing her nephew over a leaping greeting from the then 8-year-old that left her with a broken wrist, according to reports. The information above is significant because it reveals the unusual conflict of an adult suing a child, emphasizing how much of a lawsuit nation we've become. Let's look at the second excerpt. All of a sudden, he was there in the air. I had to catch him, and we tumbled into the ground, Cano testified, according to ctpost.com. I remember him shouting, "Auntie Jen, I love you," and there he was flying at me. Although hurt, Cano said, she didn't tell her nephew the extent of her injuries. The information above is significant because of the situational irony. On the one hand, the aunt testifies that her nephew shouted that he loved her, and she even shielded him from knowing about her injuries. But on the other hand, she drags him into court despite knowing that he loved her and that he was an 8-year-old and he likely did not hurt her on purpose. Let's look at the third piece of evidence. Sean, whose mother died last year, appeared confused as he sat with his father, Michael Tarla, in court Friday. A family member at the boy's home declined to comment on the lawsuit. The information above is significant because the audience can conclude that her motive, or the aunt's motive, which is money, outweighs her compassion and love for her nephew. It suggests that the law, coupled with the opportunity to have monetary gain, has changed the aunt, thusly changed people today. All right, now we're ready to look at the author's style and the message it conveys. The author's style is humorous in the first excerpt. If only they could just hug it out plays on the situation that caused the lawsuit and also on the aunt's unwillingness to forgive and forget. The message conveyed by the author's humor is many times simple solutions are underutilized. The author's style in the second excerpt is use of imagery. He paints a picture of the boy in the air shouting, "Auntie Jen, I love you," which seemingly demonstrates love. The message conveyed by the author's use of imagery is that perception is definitely subjective. The author's style in the third excerpt conveys emotion, and that happens when the audience learns that the nephew's mother died last year. So we understand that he's had to suffer the loss of his mother in addition to being the subject of his aunt's lawsuit. The author's message in this case is priorities differ. Now we're ready to look at the author's purpose for including the text that we've excerpted. In the first excerpt, the author's tone is lighthearted, and it advances his stance by influencing the reader to think of the issue as somewhat trivial. The second excerpt, the author's tone is more amused, and it advances his stance by persuading the audience that the aunt's actions are over the top and mostly out of place, considering the actual events that occurred that day when she was injured. The author's tone is apologetic, and it advances his stance by implicitly urging the reader to be empathetic toward the boy rather than the aunt. Now you're ready to read and complete your 4-column analysis chart on your own. Thank you for your time and good luck.